Welcome to Sober.Coffee, a weekly coffee chat sharing experience, strength, and hope for anyone on the sober road to recovery. You can download Sober.Coffee weekly on all podcast platforms and check us out on Instagram at Sober.Coffee Podcast and on Twitter at Sober.Coffee Pod. To learn more about us and to help support these sessions, visit online at Sober.Coffee. Here are your hosts, two guys on their own path to recovery, Mike and Glenn. Let's join them at the coffee shop.
Dude, are we funny?
You know what? We had one of our listeners left a voice message on Instagram, and she said one of us was funny.
Here's the thing, though.
Hey, Brian, which one is it?
It's Brian. Brian's the comic of the group. Hey, by the way, thank you, Brian, audiohive.com for hosting
AudioHive Blog, soon to be Video Hive.
Yeah, videohive.com. But, the reason I say that is, I was listening to some episodes where we just retooled the website. We're always trying to keep the website fresh. The resource room is chock full of things we mention at our coffees. But I was listening to him, and we were laughing. And I'm thinking to myself, I hope we're not offending people. It's a serious business, but, I don't know. I just laugh a lot more these days. I can kind of not so much laugh about the things I did, but I kind of laugh situationally. Maybe it's a nervous reaction, but either way, I've got a little joy, and we like to a little levity. I think never hurts the soup. What does that mean? Hurts the soup?
I'm not sure. I'm sure we'll figure that out. We'll do another episode just on that. But I was just trying to post on Instagram a picture. Folks, most of the time we come in here, we have a topic, and we don't really, it's just like sitting with us at a coffee shop. We just chat through stuff. And I'm going to drop a picture. Mikey is so prepped and prepared today with all his papers and all his notes.
Well, I love this topic.
What are we talking about today? Sobriety?
Well, principles, and not the office you got called into repeatedly in grade school.
Well, no. Grade school, my principal called me in to praise me.
Oh, he did?
Yeah. After that, something happened between 6th and 7th grade.
No, I went from being in the principal's office, and then I moved on to college where I was on the dean's list. I know I was.
Nice, man.
I know he was because he called me to his office several times.
Nice. I'm not sure that's the principles that we're going to talk about, though.
Okay, no, it's not at all. It's so personal principles was kind of a new thing to me in sobriety. So, yeah, you want to try and unpack it a bit?
Yeah. So, I have probably, if you Google, because I know that's your go-to source, there's all kinds of principles, right? In many areas of life. But let's see what you're talking about.
Well, it's just a little backstory. I was talking to my wife last night, and I said,
that's a good thing.
Yeah, that's a good thing. I said, have you ever gone through the exercise of defining your values, your core values, and your principles? And she said that she hadn't. And I said, the more research I'm doing on the topic of values and principles, the more I realize that how important it is to have a guiding set of rules that everything gets filtered through. And so, yeah, I did a little bit of research, but, basically the principles define for me how I live, and it's really the story behind how I act, right? So
I'm actually looking forward to this.
Yeah, so let's break it down a little bit.
Let's see what I can learn.
Yeah, so you're right. There's long lists, and we'll post them out to the resource room.
I saw one of 50.
Yeah, core values. So that's
wait, I think you saw the same list.
Yeah, right.
That's a long list, man.
It's a long list. There's things like authenticity on there. There's things like balance and responsibility, justice. You're standing up for what's right. Honesty. That's value that, had I had these defined, even in my drinking days, if I had these defined, I would be breaking them all the time. Now, with more of a sober outlook, and as I act through my principles, they align with my values. So first, let me make sure that I'm doing the right job of laying it out. And let me tell you what my objective is for this coffee. Is that at the end of the day, people take myself included, take time to go back, Glenn, and define what's really important to me. What are my core set of values? And then understand how they work in tangent with my principles so that I'm living a life that is of integrity to myself.
So values and principles are two different things, or are they the same
Values
thing?
and principles are two different things.
Okay.
Yeah. Values are kind of your core set of what you believe, and your principles are how you live out those values. Now, I'm no educator, and I'm not even a good
So
student.
we're not
at this.
doing PowerPoint today?
No, we're not.
All right.
Trust me, I'm learning.
All right.
But I like what I've learned so far in my sobriety as I now have time to focus on who I really am. And I think that's the beauty of sobriety, is that you're afforded that opportunity to focus on who you really are. And that comes with the bad stuff. That comes with, professional challenges, personal challenges, financial challenges, physical challenges. But it also comes with these opportunities to grow. And I think to stagnate is to die. So, so core values are again, things like friendships, popularity, spirituality, love, loyalty, curiosity, creativity, right? So these are things that you feel are at your very core and are going to drive if you had to do a priority list of what you were going to do today and you wanted to be in line with who you felt you are, you would associate these core values through a mental filter, right? So take a stab. I mean, is humor a big part of your core value set?
Well, let me shape this, because I'm getting my head around this,
Yeah.
and here's what I'm seeing, and tell me if I at least hit the dartboard. My brain, I think naturally, right, as human beings, going back to caveman time, right? Okay. I think that we are ingrained through DNA, chromosomes, whatever it is, to seek an easier life, right? To seek rest, right? When you go work hard, your body seeks rest, right? When you are facing a tough challenge, I'm thinking back to the caveman, when they faced a lion, right, or a bear or whatever, right, their body acts in a certain physiological, physical, emotional way, right? And after it faces a challenge, your body naturally wants to relax and rebuild and restore itself, right?
Right.
So I really like this, because as I'm starting to get my head around this, I think identifying, and I'm already thinking about, does it make sense to list these on the wall of my office where I spend a lot of time, right? So I can consistently remind me, instead of, I'm just sitting here wondering how much of my natural being is going against the values that I really want to be living.
That's right.
Because I'm naturally just, I have to tell myself to get up in the morning and grind. That's a conscious decision for me. That's not what I want to do.
Right.
I want to go back to sleep and keep on dreaming that great dream I was dreaming.
Right.
But so I'm starting to get around as we look at these. I'm going to start to grab onto some of the values and the principles and really outline them in a visual way for me, so I can be conscious and aware, because I love the word awareness, of them throughout the day. So hopefully they'll shape my behavior to how I really want to live.
Right. And here's what I believe. I believe that if you fail, if I fail to do that, if I fail to have a filter, let's call it a compass. It's just my compass. And I'm stealing that from Stephen Covey, right? So it's my compass. These are my due norths. These are the things. If I fail and go south, right, because maybe I discount, maybe community is a big part of my value set, right? And I discount community because I'm going to cut in line at the grocery, even though there's 12 people in that checkout line, I'm going to act like I don't know because I'm in a hurry and I'm going to cut in front of customer number 4, okay? That is violating my value of community, right? Look, this is all about relapse prevention. Because why? Because that is going against the grain of my true north, right? If I've defined that as my true north, right? And I really put priority behind that, I believe that those little acts of value separation are going to move me back to the drink. That's why I'm doing this. That's why I think it's an important topic for today. Does that make sense?
Yeah, you know, it's funny as you were saying that, it makes every bit of sense to me, because I think violation of values, and we haven't dug in yet, but I'm just trying to do a precursor here. For me, as you described that, violation of values equals weight, and that's emotional weight. And as I was really aware of, doing the steps in my sobriety, I realized I drank because I had a lot of emotional weight, situational weight.
I'm calling them
emotional weight.
Conflicts. You're calling them weights.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
a great way of doing it, right?
Okay.
But for me, I can only carry so much weight,
Right.
and then I have to
Then you
do
crumble.
something with it,
Yeah, you either need to get rid of it or crumble
or escape from it,
or escape from it.
right? And I use booze to escape from my weight. So the steps of AA help me clear away the wreckage, clear away the weight of my past, of stuff that I did that added up. The one action, hey, probably wasn't too heavy, right? But that one times 1,000, that one times 100, or now I have several violations of my values, multiple times, it really starts to add up,
Sure.
right? So I'm very aware of that today. But I also, as we dig in, I also don't want to beat myself up. So that's where I bring in my 92%.
Sure.
Right? If I can live my values at 92%, I'm doing okay. Now, some of these values, like being faithful to my wife,
Right. You're going to put more priority.
I'm probably going to live that at 100%.
Yeah, right. Sure. Right.
But some of these, like for example, I'm not going to tell you what it was, but 2 weeks ago I did something, and it was so small and so stupid. It was just an independent thing. I was driving, and then I did it, and I have carried that for 2 weeks.
Right. There you go. Because it was a conflict to your core value.
There was a conflict to my core value, and I am going to correct it, or attempt to correct it.
Right.
Because you know what? It's just not, and I've probably thought of that 20 times in the last 2 weeks.
Right. And so the benefit of having
And I
these...
should tell you what it was.
No,
because
because
it's so
let my
dumb.
I'm letting my imagination run. You have no idea how bad it is in my head.
You know what? It's so small, but you sit there and say, Glenn, what's wrong with you?
Right. Right. But
I'll tell you what I did.
oh, here it comes.
Are you ready?
Well, now that I pulled it out of you.
Are you ready?
Yeah, go ahead.
I littered.
Oh, that's bad stuff. Yeah.
It was a reflexive thing.
Right.
I had a can that spilled in my car, and I was pissed, and because the stuff's all over the seat, and I rolled down the window and I threw the can out.
Right. Did anyone honk at you?
No, nobody was around.
No one
Nobody
knew.
saw it. Nobody.
But you knew it.
and it was a field, right? But I knew it, and I know it, and now I'm going to go back and I'm going to find that can.
Right.
But I've thought about that 20 times in the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
That's the weight I'm talking about.
So that could have been your community value. You value the community you live in. You value
It just
the people.
wasn't right.
It just wasn't right.
This wasn't right.
But it's
I mean,
going to get right.
It's so small and stupid, but for me, it was a big thing.
Right. So I think there's benefit. What I'm learning is there's benefit to defining these, to take the time to say, here's a list of core values as people have posted, and there's probably hundreds of them. But really, when you boil it down, there are certain ones that drive. I'm looking down at the list now, and I'm seeing peace. That's the rest you were talking about. It's a value.
That's one
for
of my
you.
major core values.
Yeah, there you go. Is peace.
Peace.
Right.
I want peace, and I think everything else I do drives and fuels peace.
Right. So the minute you want to go, the dishes aren't done in your living room. Or, what? Let me have another cup of coffee. The dishes aren't done in your kitchen, and you.
They might not be done in your living room.
That's
Who
right.
knows?
That's right. And you pop cork, because you're not a pop cork from a bottle. You pop a a blood vessel in your neck because you're so frustrated that dishes aren't done. That goes against your core value of peace. And so I love what you said. Because I think, digress for 1 second. We take care of the past with steps 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9.
Yep.
Okay. If you follow a 12-step program, you've taken care of the wreckage of the past, right? Step 10 says, all right, you reviewed your day, you littered, go make amends. Go fix that because something's not sitting right on yourself. So the program answers these. I'm just trying to take it to the next level for myself that says, Michael, what's driving you? Define. And you know what the beauty is? I get to do this now with clarity. It's a project for me to constantly be looking at my value set and then challenging myself to say, are you living that way? Guess what? I know long before I ask myself the question. Why? Because you didn't feel right after you threw the can out the window. I know when I'm doing something wrong, but I can't embrace it until I define it, right? So I need the definition. And again, why? Why is this important? Because it's relapse prevention. That's what I believe. If you live in conflict with yourself, and you're not going to get inner harmony.
Right. So your list, and I just want to, and I'm not trying to be argumentative here.
That's fine.
At the coffee shop, but your list in front, there's core values list, right? And there's got to be 60 on there.
Yeah. Right.
Right. I can't focus on 60 at one time.
No. Nor should you. No. And what I suggest, what I did was I picked the 4 or 5 things that I want to be known for. Not because I care about
so
what
it's not
you
the
think.
things that you have weaknesses in today,
No.
but things that you want to be known for.
These are things that make you tick. You know it. When you look down there.
Man, I love how you say that with such conviction.
Right.
Make you tick.
Right. I mean, if security is an important value for you, then security is an important value for you. I would take a list. We're going to post it in the resource room. I would take the list. I would pick the 4 or 5 things that you believe either for a fact that this is what gets you going, or it's something you really want to work on. Now, I don't think, this is my personal opinion, you can manufacture a core value for yourself. I think you are that list.
So what you're saying then is that's the compass. That's the inner compass.
That's the inner compass.
So I can really
right.
relate to that compass because, and I've shared this before, but in my life, I believe, I grew up in a, very Christian household, spiritual household. And I believe that set my compass. So when I went to Liberty University, and when I left there, I started to adjust away from due north, right? So I really believe I was born to be a spiritual person. Maybe not with all the rules, right, that these religions have, but I was meant to have a relationship with my higher power, who today I call God. And then I left Liberty, and I started moving away from that to other worldly things, to career, to, then I started feeding ego, and I started feeding prestige and all that stuff, right? And maybe I got to 180 degrees away, right? Instead of focusing on my higher power, I focused on me, right? And I always knew that. I always knew, and when I was drinking and I had my devastating relapses and whatever, I always knew that I was away from true north. And there was a period when I started getting sober and I surrendered. Then I got back into the spiritual side of things. I felt that compass swing back around to true north. And it was the feeling inside of me was undeniable. I knew, okay, this is something I got to do. I got to stay on the spiritual path. And as I look at the core values list, there's a lot I'm looking forward to really, working on this.
You must, right?
I
must.
I really do. And I'm looking forward. But I think there's some true north here. And I like how you say that. It's kind of, when I look at the list, I look at words that don't mean anything to me. But I look at some.
Sure.
That stand out.
That's right. That's right. And
so I really like that, Mikey.
So that's the basis. That's the foundation blocks are the values. So just for the sake of time, let's see how principles bake into the core values and how
so
they
do the
reflect.
principles launch off of the values.
This is the way I liken it. These are my taglines. Your principles are your taglines.
The elevator speech.
Yeah, it's do unto others as you'd have do unto yourself.
Right.
That's a principle, right?
So does each value have a principle?
Doesn't need to.
Not really. Okay.
Yeah, you're going to find some. You're going to find some principles that bank off your value. Love is probably going to. You're probably going to have multiple principles that bounce off of love. About the value of love. But things like, for example, there are connections, right? So stillness, would be the principle that would go to the core value of stillness would be meditation. I meditate. I take care of myself. I consider my mental health a priority. Those are principles. So these are moves you more towards your actionable, to your execution, if you will. I hate to make it sound so.
I love execution.
Right?
Because it's action. It's. I mean, I can sit in a chair and dream up all the best strategies and everything else. In fact, I was laughing with you a couple of weeks ago. I said, "Hey, Mikey, it takes. I just came up with a great idea. It takes me 12 minutes to come up with a great idea and 2 years to put it in motion. Because it's just, but it's all about action.
Right. It sure is. And so I think three things. If you get this down right, and I look at it, Coke, it's the real thing. Oldsmobile, it's not today's technology. It's the tagline. It's the Coke is the value. It's the real thing. Is the tagline. It's the principle that drives you back to the value. Okay. So when you feel indecisive, about something, you can go back to your principle and say, like, for example, compassion, right, is a value of mine. I have compassion, right? So my principle is avoid arguments at all cost. Okay. Now, some might call that a weakness. I'm just using this as an example.
Then how do you stand up for what you want?
Because I also have personal integrity is a value of mine. Personal integrity is a value of mine. So if somebody is, and a lot of times, Glenn, what I find is that because I've defined what is true north to me, then when you tell me you're a Packers fan instead of a Bears fan, I'm not going to argue with you. Whatever, dude.
Right.
Because it doesn't have anything to do with my value set, right, or my principles.
But what if somebody says that they're a Republican or a Democrat and they're opposite of what you does that grind you or not?
No, but I think we can engage in conversation about that.
Yeah.
Right. So that's just one example. I just think that, again, if you're feeling indecisive, you can go back to your compass. If you're feeling uneasy about something, you can go back to your compass. And when the world gets too noisy, go back to your compass. What is really important here? I know we're running out of time. I have a
we have time limits?
Yes, a little bit. I have a suggestion.
Yeah. Part two.
I look at the program of Alcoholics Anonymous, which, I'll say proudly is, saved my life, right? The 12-step recovery has saved my life. So the Alcoholics Anonymous has principles that they publish, right? And they include things like acceptance, hope, faith, courage, honesty, patience, humility, willingness, brotherly love, integrity, self-discipline, and service, right? Those are the principles of Alcoholics Anonymous. That's not a bad list. If that sounds 12 sounds like too big of a number, go to 3. Go to openness, willingness, and honesty. Start there and say, do I align with those 3 values? And are my principles that I'm going to be honest even when it hurts? That's a principle. I'm going to be honest even when it hurts, right? Because that's supporting my value of honesty, right?
Man, that's a great list right there.
Right.
I mean, it's not like I have to go to the drawing board.
You don't have to go. No,
I mean, I just pulled it away from you, and I'm like, wow, man, that's a.
And if you're having a hard time with acceptance, ask yourself this question: am I having a hard time with acceptance because it's just uncomfortable for me, or is acceptance one of my core directions? Is that important to me? important enough. And where did that principle come from? What value did that acceptance come from? You know,
Well,
I think
peace.
it comes from peace or kindness.
Right.
I mean, I can accept somebody if my value is to be kind to humans. I can accept them wherever they came from.
And you can be kind to yourself.
Absolutely,
Right.
positively. I know this is a lot to unpack, but we'll put a couple of resources up in the resource
This
room.
is almost a workshop level.
Yeah, right?
You know.
Oh
no.
Oh, boy, here we go.
Oh, they're talking about next steps. Right?
Sober.Coffee workshops.
There you go.
Sign
Love
up now. Get your mug.
it. Love it.
All right, man. Any
Hey,
questions?
man. Yeah, you know what? This is not an 18-minute coffee.
No.
This is
We'll touch it
really an
again.
opportunity to dig in, look inside, see where my true north is on my core values, and then build the principles of how I'm going to live. I love it.
Love it. Relapse prevention. Love
Dude,
you, buddy.
Love it, man. Living better. Great coffee. Thanks, Mikey.
Thanks for joining us for today's coffee chat. To contact the show, email us at podcast@sober.coffee. If you need immediate help, the AA hotline is 800-839-1686. The National Suicide Prevention Hotline is 800-273-8255. Remember, Mike and Glenn are sharing their own journey on the path to recovery. Any suggestions, medical or otherwise, are their own experiences and should not be viewed as professional advice. See you next week, and remember, there is a solution.